And I think we're live. And there it is. Yep, we're live. What's going on, everyone? Josh Perry here, and welcome to the Change Makers series. Today is a impromptu inspired live, and I wanted to talk about a concept known as T.E.A.R. T-E-A-R. A friend shared this concept with me a while ago, and it's becoming more well-known in my conscious mind. I'm starting to understand what it means and the profound effects it has had in my life and can have in your life as well. And so to break it down really quickly, it stands for thoughts, emotions, actions, results, which I cross the results out and then create reality. So your thoughts trigger emotions that trigger your actions, which create the reality you live in. And this is really an interesting topic I'm seeing talked about more. And some may say, oh, that's woohoo and this and that. Some may be spot on, like, oh, I agree 100%. But ultimately, I want to share a story that gives context to this and brings more clarity to why this is important. And right now, I'm working on a presentation I'm giving next week to a company, and this has been a really interesting theme of mine that I'm seeing come up more and more, because for so long I felt so stuck in certain aspects of my life, and I wasn't sure why. And we can all relate to this experience, and for me, what helped was becoming more aware of my thoughts and how I was feeling and what was creating these experiences in my life. So the story I want to share is about the time I was diagnosed with a brain tumor 10 years ago. I was 21. Now, not a lot of people ask me about that moment and how I felt. Or actually, no, they all asked me about that moment rather than the moment right before surgery. And so this is a really profound story because of how much context it gives to how our thoughts can create our reality and the path in which that triggers, the pathway, I should say. And so for me, when I was diagnosed, it triggered this thought that I was going to die. Like, the fear kicked in because of that thought. And our emotions are the byproduct of what we think and the chemicals that are created from that. And why that's important is because that's going to be the determining factor between what choices we make now and moving forward. And so for me, when that happened, that thought of, oh, I'm about to lose my life, triggered this emotional response of fear. And I had a choice in that moment, and I could have given up. I could have said, all right, well, that's it. Or I could have looked for options. And ultimately, that led me to finding my surgeon. He talked to me like a professional would, and very confident in what he was going to do and what we were going to do. And it was about a week and a half from diagnosis to surgery that the thoughts started changing for me, and my emotional state of being started to change as a result. And so the initial thought of, oh, I'm going to die, changed over the week and a half because of where my focus was going. I was focusing on, being grateful to still have a chance to survive, but also I found stories that resonated with me and inspired a new belief structure, a new perspective for me. And the two that really inspired me was knowing that my mom battled cancer and was, successfully battling cancer and is alive and well today, and then learning Lance Armstrong's story. So these two people were evidence to me that I could overcome something because someone else did. And so Lance resonated with me even more so because it was someone I could relate to that was about to have their skull cut open. And also, he was a cyclist. His objective in his sport was to keep the wheels on the ground most of the time. Mine a little different. We do tricks, so we go off the ground a lot of the time. But it still was seeing someone similar to me doing something that I was looking to do. And that's why that's really important to find a focus and to look for what I call virtual mentors. Maybe we have mentors in our physical life that we know and can talk to. But for me, a lot of the things I wanted to do, I had to look outside of my immediate network because they were doing things that a lot of the people I was surrounded with weren't doing for whatever reason they chose to not do them, or it just was a different context. There's no right or wrong, but Lance Armstrong was a professional athlete, an elite athlete that overcame brain surgery. And so to me, that inspired me to think differently. So rather than thinking, oh, what happens if I don't wake up, which is very common, very, very understandable. I experienced that. I was thinking, at the beginning, I'm gonna die. I don't wanna die. Why is this happening to me? But learning his story really shifted my perspective and focus onto, rather than think about what happens if I don't wake up, let's think about what happens when I do wake up. What am I gonna be doing differently? How am I gonna show up differently in my life? And that simple, not easy, but simple shift in thought created a different chemical reaction in my body, which is what we refer to as an emotion or a feeling. And I felt more courage to move forward without fear. I felt more confident in my actions moving forward, and knowing I had an opportunity right in front of me to save my life, give me a chance, because if I didn't do anything, I would have died. It's just a matter of time. But I was grateful to be alive and to be able to choose what I did moving forward. And it really stemmed from me shifting my thoughts, which created a different emotional reaction in my body, which influenced my actions. So when we think about T.E.A.R, thoughts, emotions, actions, we follow that path. If we reverse engineer any experience we've gone through in our life, whether it was good or bad, it was positive or negative, or it was something we wanted or something we didn't want, let's trace it back to what we were thinking. What were we thinking in the moment that we made a decision to move forward that created the result that we did or didn't like, the reality in which we live? Because I can guarantee any time that you've experienced something, the difference of you moving forward the way you wanted to or not was coming from your mind. You were thinking something, and therefore you felt something which influenced how you move forward or what choices you made, which created your reality. And that's the really important thing to understand about thoughts creating your reality, is it's a mechanism that's occurring. And so the reason I bring up that moment of diagnosis is because I often get asked how I felt in that moment rather than how I felt right before I went into surgery. And I use a photo of the IV being put in my arm right before surgery in my slides in my presentation, because I talk about the difference between perceived and actual fear for our lives. And the difference is how we're thinking about it. And the brain doesn't decipher the difference between your mind thinking of a fear and actual fear being presented where you have to react. It still reacts the same way, still creates the same hormones and chemicals, stress and adrenaline, things like that, and that influences how you feel, which triggers your actions moving forward. And so for me, it was just a really profound experience to have a friend share that with me, and that's what I've been diving into learning more about. And this is just one of the pieces off of my optimization roadmap that I work my clients through, because until we become aware of our thoughts, until we become conscious of who we are, how we act, and how we've been at cause for our reality, we don't know how to optimize moving forward. And we can be trying things that we hear about, that we see other people had success with, but then we may fall off, or we may not get the results we really wanted, and then beat ourselves up thinking we just have to work harder. And there's a difference between working harder and working smarter. And the difference is really becoming aware of your thoughts, because that's going to trigger how you feel. And if you feel confident, if you feel you can or can't do something, it's a belief structure. And a lot of these come from our past experiences, but ultimately that's going to not dictate, but it's going to heavily influence how you move forward, because willpower can only last so long. The same thing with motivation. You're not going to wake up every day motivated to do something, but if you're inspired and you're focused and clear on what it is you want to do and why that is, and then look for resources to show you that it's possible, and to focus your thoughts on those areas that build you up rather than take away, you're going to have a better chance at achieving whatever it is you want. Achieving whatever goal you're going after, or obtaining whatever it is you want. Whatever the goal is, you're going to have a better chance, a higher probability of achieving that desired outcome rather than what you don't want. And it really just starts with your thoughts. And I know it sounds cheesy, but I share my story because in that diagnosis moment, I had an unconscious decision that I made that was to fight. It was to believe in myself. But I don't know if it would have been that way if I didn't have people to look to that gave me that strength, because it inspired a perspective that, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe, they did it, so I kind of look like them. My mom gave birth to me, so like I'm a part of her, things like that. And that's why I do what I do, is because I want to be a sense of a virtual mentor to people, because I've gone through a lot of challenges in my life. We all do. We all, will have challenges that present ourselves. But the difference of that experience, what we take away and how we move forward, is based on how we perceive that experience, that event, that challenge, that obstacle. And that's where the phrase perception is reality really hits home, because how you think about your life and the world you're living in and the experiences you have, that's really going to ultimately make up how you feel and how you act, and that's going to create the reality you live in. And I'm not saying that these things happen overnight, these changes, but that's what this group's all about, is making change. But change starts with our mind, and until we become aware of where we are and why that is, it's going to be difficult, near impossible, to get to where we want to go, at least in an efficient, enjoyable manner. And so I just would love to hear what you guys have to say about that, what you guys think, how it's shown up in your life, because for me, it's been transformative inside and out, is to audit my being based on what I was thinking at the time. And a lot of my beginnings was through the lens of BMX. Every choice I made was through this filter of, is this going to help me get to the goal of becoming a BMX athlete one day? And so all my choices in life until recently were coming from the perspective of BMX and that dream. And then when my life was threatened, and then again, and then a third time, it really got me focused on purpose. And I'm wearing this shirt, Off Self on Purpose. And a little, spoiler to the title of my talk next week is From Self to Purpose, and how I was focused on myself for so long, and it got me to certain points in my life, and it saved my life, but it ultimately led me to my purpose, which is to serve others. It's more than just me. And if it wasn't for these different experiences triggering different thoughts and different outside influences helping me inspire these different thoughts, I may have felt differently in the moment. I may have continued to feel bad for myself, or feel sorry for myself, or feel like I was afraid and I wouldn't have been able to do anything. And those thoughts still come up today. That's not what this is about. This isn't saying these thoughts are never going to come up just because you think one way that you're not going to feel another. It's just about majority of your thoughts and your emotions, and catching that and deliberately putting intention and focus towards what you do want to create, what you do want to experience, who you want in your life, what do you want to be doing. The more that you can become aware of your thoughts and your emotions and catch yourself, each time you do that, you're overcoming your past self that's not serving you anymore. And the more you direct that focus to the thoughts you do want to have, to the vision you do want to work towards, that you do want, you're going to feel in a different way that's going to allow you to show up and act in a manner that's going to, again, we can't control our outcome, but it's going to create a higher probability of that desired outcome being a reality for us. And final thing I want to close with is something I'm learning more and more about, and it's something that I experienced. And any one of us that's had any amount of success has done this, and so therefore we can put the belief or the focus in that thought and believe that we can achieve more because we've already done something. But when you set a goal, the end goal isn't to reach that goal. Like, let's say, running, for example, you want to run a 5K. The goal isn't to run a 5K. The goal is to become a runner. And by running every day, you embody that of a runner, and then that increases your chances of achieving that goal. And I've gone through this myself, when I was inspired by BMX from a child to my adult years and became a professional athlete. I didn't just wait till the contest to perform. I practiced every day. I built that belief over repetition, over practice, over time. It didn't just happen. The first time I got on a bike and on a ramp, I was scared. It took me a while to go down even the basic ramp. That's just, the journey of any new experience. And ultimately, I kept focusing on the thoughts that I had, which was creating that vision that I wanted and I desired. So every day I tried and I got better and I got better. And then my desired outcomes just kept changing and elevating. And so what I'm getting at is I embodied that of which did and had what I wanted. Rather than waiting to a moment to feel something, I chose to act every day that made me feel a little bit closer, a little bit better. And when we start thinking, oh man, like I set this goal to run 20 minutes a day and I only ran 10 or I only ran 18, then we start to have the thoughts that, oh, maybe I'm a failure. Maybe I didn't show up the way I did. I didn't do good enough. And then our unconscious mind takes over and then tells us, you know what, don't even run today. You don't need to do that. And then we are discouraged because we're not reaching our goals. And so I think what's really important is to focus on the thoughts, and journaling is great for that. Meditating is great for that. Sorry, Cheddar's nonstop scratching himself right now. But when you can really audit your thoughts and then just see what thoughts are serving you, then you can understand why you feel the way you do and why you're acting or not acting in the manners that you want to. And then you can see easily how you created your reality. And the last thing I want to mention is you're not at fault or to blame for the things that happen in your life. Your objective is to understand you're at cause for everything you experience. So if something happens, I didn't ask for a brain tumor to happen, but I'm at cause for how I moved forward, which is what created my reality. And so I've shared that before, and some people have gotten really upset and shared, well, I didn't want this, and what about that? And it's like, life happens. We can't control outcomes. We can't control what happens to us, but we can control ourselves. We can control our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And ultimately, the better at that we get, the better at creating our desired outcome, our desired reality we're gonna get. So again, I appreciate you guys. I hope that made sense. I really felt compelled. This was, again, an impromptu live that I wanted to do. I just got done practicing my talk for next week, and I just felt really inspired by this. And it's been a big driving force in my life, and I just really wanted to share it. And so we got some comments. Kat, my virtual mentors are helping me save my life 100%. Yes, I love that. And I know a little bit about your journey, and you've been crushing it, and just keep doing what you're doing. Ryan says he's gonna check it out later. I appreciate it, man. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. I want to know what you guys think about the T.E.A.R concept, thoughts, emotions, actions, reality, and how it's shown up in your life. And really think about that. Think about any good or bad experience. Maybe what your thoughts were leading up to that, because that probably created an emotional reaction, which probably triggered you to act way or another, and then you got a result.